Right. Sorry, I just got a message about being recorded then. Okay, so let's learn about Lorraine Foster. We're going to dig a little bit into something about you because this is your life. So we'll ask you some questions, and feel free to say you don't want to share or tell us what we want to know. All right. Tell us a little bit about your family. You come from a big family or a small family?
My immediate family is very small. I only have one elder sister, Cheryl, who's about 2 years older than me. And I'm single, 60. I'm not available though. So, you know, that's about it. I mean, my life story, we could sit here all night. I'm single probably because of my sexuality. That's another story.
Well, that's you know, everyone has a story, so that's all right. Now with Cheryl, is there such a thing as sibling rivalry with your sister?
Oh, never. I'm quite lucky that I have an understanding elder sister. Yes, we do agree in certain areas, but we agree to disagree. We have never had fights. And I have always respected her as my elder sister. When COVID happened last year, we struggled a little, the company, and I have staff, and Cheryl, my sister, actually helped me out financially. So there is rivalry, but there's love.
Oh, okay, well, that's good to know. You've got a very supportive sister. Good on you, Cheryl. I think Cheryl was with my sister
Rosalind.
in two years ahead of us. Yes.
Yeah.
And Rosalind. So she's
Yes.
been wave. Anyway, all right. So let's get down to your heritage. You know, a lot of people from Fiji. We're all over the shop. You know, we have the Chinese and the Indians and the Fijians and the mixed. And what's your heritage?
Well, you know, they always called me fruit salad. But Mum, briefly and very quickly, Mum was part Chinese, Fijian. And Dad, that's where we got our diverse background from. Dad was, he was born in Rotuma. I'm not too sure if he had Rotuma blood, and his mom was Samoan, and we have a little bit of German and Irish as well, hence the surname Foster. So yeah.
That's a real fruit salad.
Yeah.
So with having you know, such a mixed nationality in your blood, what sort of, I want to know what sort of food was on the table at home in the Foster family when you were growing up? What food did Mum, you know, what was Mum's special meal and what was Dad's special meal?
Okay, for Mum, every Saturday, because of her strong Chinese background, we had Chinese food, and Mum would cook all these traditional Chinese dishes, you know, the fungi thing, which you can't see in restaurants now. And we had quite a lot of traditional Chinese dishes on Saturday. But Sunday was our island day, like I suppose most Fijian families in Fiji, where we had the usual polasami and, you know, a big meal, roast pork and all that stuff. During the week, when I was growing up, mom and dad, were not that financially well off, and I vaguely remember our usual dish of row. But as time passed and mom and dad grew in their career, typical Fijian family, curry, there's got to be curry once every week. Yeah, the European stew, and yeah, the normal Fijian meals that most Fiji families have. Yeah.
Okay. Do you cook?
Of course I cook. Oh.
Okay.
When during my career, I was too busy, and because I was single, even though I had a partner, we were both busy. So most of the time we, takeaways, and I hardly cooked. And at 60 years old, and you're on lockdown, and you have no choice but to cook. So I'm actually getting to be quite a good cook and a baker as well. So mom, wherever you are, she must be really quite shocked. I mean, I do one of the best cheesecakes. I do, yes, last night or night before last, we had pizza, a fancy pizza, which looked like a pie. I like to experiment, and I was so happy it turned out well. And before I put the pizza in the oven, I realized that I had forgotten the most important ingredient, which was cheese. So I sprinkled it on top. I tried to rip open the top layer, but yeah, that didn't work. But I call myself a good cook. So yeah.
Well, okay, that's good. So what would the signature dish be if I said I was coming for dinner? What would you cook? What's your best dish?
Sorry, namesake Lorraine, I would cook you a wicked curry crab with
all right, that's it. So I'm definitely making a reservation. Oh, that's great. Now, we have, there's one, talking about dinners and things, I've had one question asked over many dinner tables, and that's, if you had a dinner party and you could invite 3 influential people, dead or alive, who would you choose and why?
Yeah, I think Emily sent me this question. I thought it was quite unusual. First of all, I hate dinner parties. I hate preparing for it. But if I did, the first person I would invite was, while I was working, there was this little Hindu lady that used to come around offices selling bottles of chutney. We would converse in Fijian, and she amazed me with what she knew. And she was poor, of course, and but she was so well versed about life. So she'd be the first one I'd invite. The second one would be Tiffany Haddish. The thing I hate most is at dinner parties, if it's formal, it's boring. So Tiffany Haddish, I don't have funds to bring her all the way to Fiji, but she would be my second guest because she would lighten the atmosphere. But also Tiffany also has a serious side to her because she's had some struggles in her life. And the third one I would invite would be Gina Rokomokoti, who's a good friend of mine, who passed away. She was marketing manager And when I was financial controller at Suva Travelodge, I was the typical accountant where I couldn't make conversation with strangers, and every month we had to entertain some of our house guests. And I couldn't talk to strangers, and she taught me how to open up. And so now it's so easy for me to talk to anyone, literally sitting on the bus or on an aeroplane. So I'd invite her because she'd make everybody feel at home. So those are my three choices.
Well, obviously, they would make a very very interesting dinner conversation,
yes,
for sure, with you. All right. Just quickly, okay, let's go to your school years. You went to St. Anne's Primary, as we saw from that cute photo. Do you know what class that might have been?
Sorry?
That class photo that we
So one.
That was class 1?
Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing. First class. And how big those classes were. You know, them,
yeah.
So are there any classmates from that first year that you're still in contact with?
Oh yes, there's Genevieve. I can see her. Hi, Genevieve. Oh, namesake Lorraine. Actually, there's quite a lot of us from the class of 78. We keep in touch regularly. So that means our friendship spans over 50 years.
That's pretty special. That's special. Well, I'm glad you could all come on here to reconnect as well, because I'm hoping that this will go global, and this first session is just the start, because we really do want everyone from all over the world to join us on the next one. Now, St. Joseph's, you said you were in the class of 78. Did you have any special recollections, good or bad, from St. Joseph's? Oh, okay, that's a wicked laugh. That's a really wicked laugh.
Well, you know, I love Sister Genevieve dearly, you know. But our class, I think we were greatly misunderstood by the then Sister Genevieve. And I think the more she tried to, how shall I put it, discipline or tolerate us, the more our bond became stronger. But anyway, when we went up to Form 6, she thought none of us were capable leaders. So she didn't nominate a head girl or prefect from our class. So if you go to St. Joseph, the list of head girls under the class of 78 is student council. And I remember the various form prefects of the different classes were then made prefects. So us being in Form 6, we had to listen to a prefect from Form 3.
Oh.
And yeah, so you can imagine. Yeah, we had so much fun. We had a diverse lot of students. I can see Satwan. Satwan came from Dudley. I would name her a nerdy one. But you know, despite her being nerdy, I loved her. She was just so much fun, and I have no idea why she followed us, you know. There's Shanaz and there's Lorraine, and I'm sure they are able to identify and also agree with me. But those are one of the most memorable days, St. Joseph here. But yeah, I think Sister Genevieve, sorry, Jenny, misunderstood us. we were greatly misunderstood. Yeah.
Oh, I do remember your class. Your very boisterous class. Yeah. So anyway, those were the days. Right. Uh, so other than Sister Genevieve, did she teach any of your classes?
I think she taught us religion and biology. But when one of our magazines, we wrote about her, she was our main feature. And I never forgave her for, I don't want to say treating us badly, for not believing in ourselves that we were not leaders. So when I left secondary, when I walked out of those school gates in Form 6, I really didn't want to have anything to do with school or Sister Genevieve. I took it personally. And after 40 years, when we decided to feature her in our magazine, I had to interview her. And yeah, we made our peace. And but I told her, like what Imran said, you know, the thing is, I couldn't have, I couldn't imagine Sister Genevieve without Sister Genevieve in my secondary school days. She set the foundation for my future. She empowered me to be a woman, a strong, empowered woman. She was always that voice in my head because during my life journey, wow, I made a lot of mistakes, but Sister Genevieve's voice was, you know, behind me. So I thank her, and I'm glad that I did. We reconciled, but she still thought that our class was dysfunctional. But you know, that was her opinion.
Well, you know, the most creative people are probably the most dysfunctional I found. So it's just the way their brains think, and I think you know it's not a bad thing. Anyway, all right. So Sister Genevieve played a big part. Who was your favorite teacher?
You know, actually, my favorite teacher was Sister Agnes.
Oh.
I looked back and looked at, yeah, she was a maths teacher, and she was my maths teacher in primary school. And every lunchtime when she would come to school after she had her lunch, we would run away from her because she would want us to pick up the papers. But why I specifically picked her was when Mom used to collect my report, school report, from school every year, no teacher had something good to say about me. I mean, you know, I was always at the bottom of the class. But Sister Agnes was the only teacher that said to Mom, you know, Lorraine can do better. You know, it was always a positive comment.
Oh,
so yeah. And throughout those years, I got to really appreciate her and like her because of her positivity. But, you know, they say negativity helps too. So I thank Sister Genevieve too for helping me.
Yin and the yang in the nuns, yeah, Sister Genevieve and Sister Agnes.
Yes.
All right, well done. So, and when you left Form 6, what was your first job?
Okay, when I left Form 6, I actually failed my university entrance, and I know I greatly disappointed my mom and dad. Now, Dad was an accountant, so what he did was I'll use the word encourage, not force. He encouraged me to go back to school and do accounting, which I did. I went to Derrick Institute, got my certificate in accounting and diploma in accounting. Then I started work and then did my degree in accounting and economics. My career really wasn't in publication. It was, I was actually an accountant, and I think one of my best auditors is online now, Jenny Sito. Yeah, so I have worked in quite a few companies in accounts.
Okay.
I started off with Air Pacific, then I moved to Suva Travel Launch. Then I went to Shell as accounting manager, then to USP. So I think all of the industries I've worked in.
Oh, well done. And when you were working with Air Pacific, how many years did you spend with them?
In Air Pacific, I worked there for about 6 years, and Holiday Inn about 8 years, Shell about 8, and USP about 6 years. Then my last place that I worked was at SPC for about 6 years.
Right. So did you do a lot of traveling when you were with
Oh yes, I did a lot of traveling. To get to Ireland, it actually only cost me about $50 then in Air Pacific. And
what dreams of, you know, like that.
And what we used to do was we used to have 2 flights to Sydney on Saturdays. So the first flight was early in the morning. So we would take that flight, do shopping in Sydney, and come back on the late flight.
Wow.
Yeah, but yeah, no wonder Air Pacific went broke, but that's another story. Yeah.
Because of all your traveling. Or
Yeah.
all those free airfares. Oh, okay. So whereabouts in the world, where was your favorite destination?
Actually, it wasn't in one of the developed countries. I went to Vanuatu to work. USP sent me there, and I just love that place. I don't know. It's the simplicity of the people as well as the country, and I really loved it there. I've traveled a lot, you know. North America, South America, the Orient, Europe, England, but I don't know. Vanuatu really got to me. So yeah.
Vanuatu, yeah, it's a beautiful place. All right. So if you would choose anywhere in the world to live, would you say Vanuatu?
No, Fiji.
Well, other than Fiji, of course.
I don't want to go anywhere else. Yes, I would move to Vanuatu, definitely.
Okay, all right. Well, that fills up a little bit of your background. All right. So the theme of this Zoom session is to celebrate your success, and to celebrate yours, especially as a publisher of Iron Woman magazine. Let's talk about your passion. When was this baby born, and how long did it take?
When I retired, I actually, working at SPC, there was a lot of stress. And one morning I woke up and it was my 54th birthday. And I just went to work and resigned.
Wow.
And it was a decision I never regret. I just resigned. I was so tired.
Yeah.
My boss didn't want to give me leave. And then I decided that at 55, my insurance policies had matured and my FNPF, and you know, I had money. I was single. I didn't have any commitments. I decided I was going to travel and just lay about and do nothing. But then a very good friend of mine, she spoke about this, about us having a woman's magazine. Now, while I was working, I was also doing social work too for marginalized women as well. So there was a passion there. And she said that what was missing in Fiji was a visible voice for women. So we decided to start the I Am Woman magazine. It's young, it's only 3 years old. And unfortunately, when it started to get popular last year, COVID happened. So yeah. Yeah, and yeah, so I Am Woman, that's how I Am Woman started.
Well, that's
Yeah, the vision of the magazine was to get young people to join the magazine as writers. We didn't look at professional journalists. So we brought in these young women and we got them to write articles. So the articles were quite raw. And yeah, that's the theme of the magazine. We've got a few, our graphic designer was quite good. He's actually an ex-St. Joseph student, Candace Veramu. So yeah, the theme of I Am Woman is to tell the story of the everyday women. We try not to look at prominent women because their story have been told. But Sister Genevieve's story was an exception because I wrote it from my point of view and how I saw Sister Genevieve. And a few of the people got upset, and one of the priests told me, "Oh, Lorraine, I didn't like the way you wrote the story." I said, "Well, that's how I saw Sister Genevieve." But in the end, he said he really liked how she, you know, she was part of my life journey. So yeah.
Okay, so it's yeah, it's good that you know you have a different view on, you know, not interviewing people that are well known, but certainly people like everyday people. Where do you do your research? How do you go about with your research?
Okay, what we do is we ask our young writers if they know any women. Each issue, there's a theme. And the theme could be Fiji women overseas, or the theme could be women in education. And what we do is, when we have our meeting, we throw names in. Okay, maybe you should do this, interview this lady. Oh, why? Oh, because she's this and she's that. And then that's how we do it. We actually get the young writers to go out and look for women who they think is a woman of substance, and we interview them. What we do is, once we interview them, we write their story, we send it back to them, and then they can decide to make changes or not, and then approve for the article to be published. But yeah.
Okay. How many people in your team at the moment?
Sorry?
How many people do you have in the team at the moment? How many writers do you have?
Well, it depends. Yeah, it depends because we have quite a few writers, but we have a publisher and we have a graphic designer that's permanent. And then the writers are coming in from wherever they come from. But we try not to use professional journalists. I mean, I have written a few of the articles, and I'm sure Satwan and Lorraine and them know I don't write. I never used to write when I was in St. Joseph. So it was something very new to me. But there's some of the articles that I have written. So
no journalistic experience, but you've risen to the ranks of publisher. That is amazing. That is really amazing because, you know, from someone who thought they could do it a long time ago, what you've done is absolutely amazing. So anyway, I will wrap it up there. That's my investigative part of finding out about Lorraine Foster. I'll pass you on to Emily.